The year was 1922, a time when the world was still recovering from the Great War and the Spanish flu pandemic. Life was slowly returning to normal, but in the remote corners of Bavaria, the pace of change was glacial. March had arrived, but spring felt far away. The harsh winter had left the land barren and cold, with only the faintest promise of new life beginning to stir beneath the frozen ground. In the secluded Bavarian countryside, a small farmstead named Hinterkaifeck stood cloaked in an unsettling quiet. The farm was isolated, surrounded by dense woods and open fields, creating an eerie sense of seclusion. The nearest village was a brisk walk through fields and woods, making the farm a world unto itself. The path to the village was often deserted, adding to the sense of isolation that enveloped Hinterkaifeck. Andreas Gruber, the patriarch, was a man of habit and solitude. Known for his stern demeanor and reclusive nature, he rarely ventured beyond the boundaries of his farm. He lived on the farm with his family, his wife Cecilia, their widowed daughter Victoria Gabriel, and her two young children, Cecilia and Joseph. The family was close-knit, bound together by the hardships of rural life. Completing the household was Maria Baumgartner, a young maid who had just arrived days before. She was eager to start her new job, unaware of the dark fate that awaited her. Little did they know they were living their final days. The setting sun cast long shadows over the farm, as if foretelling the darkness that was about to descend upon them. An unseen presence lurked nearby, and soon the isolation of Hinterkaifeck would become a breeding ground for unimaginable horror. The tranquility of the farm was a fragile veneer hiding the sinister events that were about to unfold. The Gruber family, along with their new maid, were on the brink of a nightmare that would leave an indelible mark on history. The weeks leading up to the fateful night were punctuated by strange occurrences. It began subtly, almost imperceptibly, with small things that could easily be dismissed as coincidences or the product of an overactive imagination. Andreas, a man not prone to flights of fancy, told of finding footprints in the snow leading to the farm but not away. He was a practical man, grounded in reality, and this anomaly gnawed at him, refusing to be ignored. He heard footsteps in the attic when he knew everyone was accounted for. The sound was unmistakable, the creak of old wood under the weight of something unseen, something that shouldn't be there. A set of house keys went missing. They were always kept on the same hook by the door, a place where they had hung undisturbed for years. Their sudden disappearance was both puzzling and alarming. The family dog would bark incessantly at night as if sensing something sinister. His barks were not the usual playful or alert sounds, but a deep, guttural growl that sent shivers down the spine. A sense of unease settled upon the farmstead. A palpable tension that tightened with each passing day. The air seemed thicker, the shadows longer, and the nights colder. Maria, new to the household, found herself increasingly unnerved. She was a young woman full of hope and dreams, but the atmosphere in the house was suffocating, stifling her spirit. The isolation was one thing, but these strange occurrences hinted at something far more sinister. The farm, once a place of solace and hard work, now felt like a prison, its walls closing in on her. Her unease was dismissed by the family, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Every creak, every whisper in the night seemed to be a warning, a prelude to something dreadful. The nights were the worst, filled with an oppressive silence that was occasionally broken by those inexplicable sounds. Maria knew she had to find out what was happening, even if it meant facing her deepest fears. On the evening of March 31st, a cold wind howled outside, rattling the windows of the farmhouse like skeletal fingers. Inside, the family gathered for what they believed to be an ordinary evening. Little Cecilia played on the floor, her laughter a stark contrast to the growing tension in the air. Victoria prepared dinner, her brow furrowed with worry as she thought about the strange events of the past weeks. Andreas sat in his usual chair, his gaze distant and troubled. Maria, unable to shake her growing fear, busied herself with chores, her every sense on high alert. Unbeknownst to them, their secluded world was about to be shattered by an act of unimaginable brutality. Days passed. The silence from Hinterkaifeck was deafening. When the family failed to appear for Sunday Mass, concern rippled through the small community. Neighbors, led by Lorenz Schlittenbeck, a worried villager, made their way to the farm. As they approached the house, a sense of dread washed over them. The door was ajar. Inside, a scene of unimaginable horror awaited. The lifeless bodies of Andreas, Kazilia, Victoria, and little Kazilia lay sprawled in the barn, brutally murdered. They had been lured there one by one, their killer lying in wait. Upstairs, in her bed, lay young Joseph, and in the maid's quarters, Maria, both victims of the same unspeakable violence. The idyllic farmstead of Hinterkaifeck had become a tomb. Section 5. Days of Silence, Nights of Horror. The most chilling detail, perhaps, was what investigators discovered next. It wasn't just the brutality of the murders that shocked them, but the eerie normalcy that followed. The killer or killers hadn't fled after the murders. Instead, they chose to stay, as if the farmhouse was their own. They remained at the farm for days, blending into the daily rhythm of life at Hinterkaifeck. The fire in the stove was lit, food was consumed, and the cows were even milked. It was as if they were trying to erase the horror they had inflicted by maintaining a facade of normalcy. It was as if the murderer, or murderers, were trying to maintain the illusion of life at Hinterkaifeck, even as the bodies of their victims lay decomposing just feet away. The contrast between the mundane and the macabre was stark and unsettling. The image of the killer calmly going about their daily routine in the aftermath of such a horrific act sent chills down the spines of even the most hardened investigators. They milked the cows, cooked meals, and even slept in the beds of their victims. It spoke to a level of depravity and chilling detachment that was almost beyond comprehension. The investigators were left to ponder the mindset of someone who could commit such atrocities and then carry on as if nothing had happened. The eerie silence of the farmhouse, punctuated by the normal sounds of daily life, was a haunting reminder of the horror that had unfolded within its walls. Time seemed to stand still at Hinterkaifeck, with each tick of the clock echoing the unanswered questions and the chilling reality of the days of silence and nights of horror that had transpired. Section 6. The investigation begins. News of the Hinterkaifeck murders sent shockwaves through Germany. How could such a horrific crime take place in such a quiet, remote corner of the country? Investigators descended upon the farmstead, determined to bring the killer or killers to justice. They meticulously combed through the scene, searching for any clue that might lead them to the perpetrator. The murder weapon, a mattock, was found in the barn, but it yielded no fingerprints. Witnesses were questioned, rumors scrutinized, and theories debated, but the investigation seemed to hit one dead end after another. Suspicion fell on several individuals. Was it Lorenz Schlittenbeck, the first to discover the bodies, harboring a dark secret? Could it have been Karl Gabriel, Victoria's estranged husband seeking revenge? Or perhaps a drifter, passing through the area, had committed the crime? Theories abounded, each more outlandish than the last. Neighbors whispered about family feuds, hidden affairs, and even the possibility of a robbery gone wrong. The investigation, however, failed to definitively link any of the suspects to the crime. The motive for the Hinterkaifeck murders remains as elusive as the killer themselves. Was it a crime of passion, a long-simmering feud that finally boiled over? Was it a robbery that went horribly wrong, or was there a more sinister motive at play? Some whispered of dark secrets within the family, of forbidden relationships and hidden inheritances. Others pointed to the strange occurrences leading up to the murders, suggesting something more chilling, perhaps even supernatural at play. The lack of a clear motive only deepened the mystery, shrouding the case in an impenetrable fog of speculation and fear. The Hinterkaifeck murders sent shockwaves through Germany and beyond. The brutality of the crime, the isolation of the setting, and the chilling detail of the killer remaining on the farm for days after the murders captured the public's imagination and fueled countless theories and speculation. The case became a morbid fascination, the subject of books, documentaries, and countless whispered conversations. Even today, over a century later, the Hinterkaifeck murders remain one of the most baffling unsolved mysteries in history. The Hinterkaifeck murders stand as a chilling reminder that some mysteries may never be solved. The passage of time has done little to diminish the horror of that night or to provide any definitive answers. The farmstead itself was demolished, leaving only an empty field where it once stood, but the legend of Hinterkaifeck lives on, a haunting tale whispered from generation to generation, a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk in the shadows and the mysteries that may forever elude our grasp. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more intriguing mysteries.